the rest of the song on tape for the archive. Alrighty, so there we go. There's our first glitch. Now that that's out of the way, we can.
Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back, listeners.
Time for the best part.
So the next part is actually going to be Penroth. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Penroth? Where do you hail from, and what's your relationship to me?
Well, I really don't know why you had to turn your recorder on until I was my turn. But okay, that's fine. My name is actually Nathan, but an old D&D character of mine was named Penroth. I don't have any current Traveller characters because I'm a dungeon master. I've been running games since 1979. And I've played 1 million games with Frank here, CyborgPrime. And I loved every one of them. What were some other questions? I don't remember them.
I think he's still gonna lead us with the rest of the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, Penroth is one of my oldest Traveller buddies. We first played Traveller when we were semi-roommates when we were like 17 years old. We're now, well, I'm in my 50s, so we've had a long and glorious Traveller career together.
We're definitely way over the hill, that's for sure.
and who do you have with you there, Penroth?
Oh, well, I have my wife with me.
Is she a Traveller player?
Yes, she is. Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my favorite Traveller character is actually a pilot named Succardi.
Mm-hmm.
And she can do amazing things.
Yeah.
Awesome.
She's like level 6 or 7 pilot.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've been playing it for a while, and it's under Penroth's style, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I have loved every minute of it.
It's a great game.
It is a great game.
Well, welcome to the table, and thank you for participating in our panel tonight. Let's get to our first of our local crew aboard the CSS Granite. That would be Ricard. Hi, Ricard.
Greetings. Yeah, I've been. My first character was a Traveller character 29 years ago, pretty much to the day, and I've always enjoyed the genre, and he was fortunate enough to roll a ship and be a scout. And today I play Conrad Drift, which is somewhat in the vein of Kolchak the Night Stalker, and so he's always looking for the conspiracies and things, and he's embedded in Stellaris Corporation in Fraz's game, so it's been fun, and just fun to see him develop. He had remote operations, and it turned into quite a skill because he specifically didn't take any medic or guns. But if you've ever seen the TED Talks where they're swarming the drones, is a force to be reckoned with the drones. Anyway, good to meet you all.
Welcome, Ricard. And thank you for all the fun you bring to our table. It's you're a valuable asset in my game. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Rassilon Monk, who is the pilot of the implication. Welcome, Rassilon. Introduce yourself, please.
Hey, yeah, so I play Admiral Garrett Fancy Pants Crowe, retired. I threw that in there for the rest of the team because he obviously earned a bit of a nickname. I've been gaming a long time, and Traveller was one of my first gaming experiences even prior to D&D. Back in the Black Book days when my older cousin kind of took it out for a spin. I've had some dabbling in game design. I got some credits in 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, a few books there. Was involved with a lot of the Traveller T20 playtesting, and used to play a remote game when I was living in Germany with Brian Gibson, one of the artists in a number of the Traveller books, and a few other people. And so playing remote games, we didn't have Roll20 back then, but is nothing new to me, and having a great time with the crew of the Implication.
Great.
And all its implications.
And all its implications. So, all right. Well, welcome. And Monk, thank you, too, for what you bring to the table. We have great...
and I have way more books than Hexen. I After 3 shelves, I was at close to 200, and there's like 14 shelves to go, so...
Suddenly feel inadequate.
Always in competition, this guy. So I'm going to go around and we'll just talk about how everybody got into playing RPGs. So let's start with you, Cass. How did you get involved in RPGs, and how did you find out about
Traveller? Well, no, it was through you guys.
Really?
Literally through you guys. Yes.
You never played an RPG before you came to play with us?
Oh, no. Well,
not one we're talking about, clearly.
RPGs when I was much younger, decades ago. But I have not played a pen and paper game for, not for a long time. So, you guys got me back into it.
All right, cool.
But I've been a gamer for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
Whatnot.
What first brought you to RPGs?
I was always fascinated with fantasy and sci-fi since a very young age, and someone at school was running a group and got me involved, and I got the bug.
All right, that's how I started too at school.
Yeah,
I think by the bug.
Most people did.
And what about you, Gomos? What's your background in RPGs? When did you start, and how did you get involved in Traveller?
Well, I met these strange people on the internet. They invited me with Candy to come play games with them, and I said yes. And here I am, like a year or something later. Honestly, that's about it. I was lucky enough to get wrangled into this whole thing. I think it came through Monk, but Fraz was looking for people to play test his new system that he was working on Roll20, and I jumped at the opportunity. I wanted to play Tabletop for a while, but I didn't know anyone who did. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. When you hear people refer to Fraz, that's my alt on our BattleTech server. I mean, MechWarrior server. So I'm also online as Fraz Hasnick. So when you hear Fraz, just substitute CyborgPrime. All right, cool. Gomos. And what about you, Hexen? How long have you been gaming? What brought you into gaming, and what brought you into RPGs in particular?
Well, I started playing, when I say quote unquote playing D&D, it was back in the 80s. Really wasn't really playing. It was more the fascination of the settings and, just love of fantasy. Really started playing RPGs was a little game store called Limited Wish in my hometown. And we played the BattleTech board game, and that's what really got me going. And ever since then, I've been enjoying various role-playing games of any kind since then. And it's actually through BattleTech I met Monk, and from there, he goes, "Hey, you want to do Traveller?" I was like, "Yes." So here we are.
Great. Awesome. Well, glad to have you along with us. Penroth, you're muted. There you go. So tell us.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, how did you get into gaming, and how did you first find out about Traveller?
Oh, that's a good question. The first time I ever gamed, I didn't even know what I was doing. I had a friend who had a couple of miniatures, right? And he had the little white books of D&D. And we used to play with the miniatures, right, and the D&D books. And that was the very first time I ever, role-played, I guess. My first Traveller experience was with my friend, my old high school friends, and we used to play Traveller. I was the first one to buy it, but my friends always had more money, and so they bought all the cool stuff, and I had to like, I can't have the cool stuff. And so I always had to like look on in amazement as my friends who could afford the cool stuff. But I've been playing games for like ever since 1979 is the earliest I can remember anything about gaming. So I was like 10 or 11 back then.
Wow. Well, cool. And what about you, Ricard? What got you started into gaming, and how did you find out about Traveller?
Okay, well, in January of '90, I moved to the town where CyborgPrime lives to become start a career as a car mechanic, and I was working at this place, working on Mercedes, and then two people came to work there in the front to computerize the business, which was probably one of the first auto shops that became computerized, and that was they had the family friend, which was CyborgPrime and his wife, and they both worked there. And so I'd talk to him once in a while, and his wife was talking about an experience which I had no clue about any of this, how she'd run up to somebody and shot them and blew their cockpit off and killed them in one shot. And I thought, well, that's kind of intriguing, weird. And so anyway, from that it evolved into, hey, CyborgPrime says I run this Traveller. Would you like to see what role-playing is about? And I said, sure. And ever since then, it was, I think the biggest mystery to me was how could somebody do this thing called DMing or GMing, which was just creating a story as you go. And over the years, I just played as many games as I could. I went to local cons, for one-offs and things like that. And then actually eventually ran a successful on the heels of CyborgPrime's Shadowrun, a successful Shadowrun campaign, and a Dark Sun, and I guess you'd call it like Other Realms D&D with a Far North winter campaign. And it's been a long time actually since we've role played, because everybody went their own way, and so it's been good. We've been doing this about a year and a half, so hope to keep doing it.
Hey, cool, great. There's a little bit of story behind that. I was unfortunate to have a sudden heart attack, not last November, but the November before. And as part of my recovery, I couldn't really do anything, and my friends came to babysit me. And so I enticed them with Traveller to come and hang out and do something help me recover and have somebody with me, while I was freaking out about dying. Anyway, I'm okay now, so everything's good.
That's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so happy you're here. I mean,
yeah, I'm happy.
What you think?
I'm happy to be here too. Yeah. So, okay. So, Monk, tell us, how did you get into gaming, and how did you get into Traveller in particular?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, you guys are older than I am, but not by a whole lot. And I've probably been playing since then, maybe when I was 7. Which would have been the 70s. Always enjoyed fantasy sci-fi, and I kind of had some books of some things on my own, but my older cousin, who's probably 8 years older than me. Hey, that's my line.
Squelch.
That's my line. He kind of had the original Little Black books and walked through the original character creation process, and I promptly died in character creation, and it was loved it ever since. I would say that for me, gaming was a huge part of my life growing up. I traveled a lot. My family moved quite a bit. I grew up in other countries. But I still had that connection with my brother and friends to be able to whip up a game, make new friends and things like that. So it used to be huge for me, and then suddenly you're an adult and you have to get a job and grow up, and come in and out of it ever since. But it's always been close to my heart, and glad that technology has helped people sort of play the way that we're able to play. I know you guys have the local group, but I wouldn't be gaming if it wasn't for that. And I wouldn't have been gaming the same way in Europe when I was there without that technology. So it's good to have that.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Roll20. It's not the best thing, but it really has allowed me to make friends with and play with people on the other side of the world. Like cats. I met cats through through Discord, but playing on Roll20. Since I'm a content producer, I make the maps and all the handouts and stuff. So, and these guys consume them and tell me what they think is good or bad, and I make adjustments. And we have a great time. And
needs a little bit more salt.
Yes, thanks. It'll get saltier. Don't worry. But Roll20 is a great thing, and Fantasy Grounds too. Any kind of virtual tabletop thing that lets you connect with people who you can't. Some people they live in a remote place, they live in a rural place, they live in a place where they don't have a lot of friends that are into gaming, and things like Roll20 really lets you reach out to the world and meet people and have games that you wouldn't have had without that. And what you just said, Monk, is exactly accurate.
I agree. When I was in the UK,
and I think also because of the spottiness of my local group, one of my local players may even come. Ricard may even come to be part of the away team. So.
Good luck with that. You gotta need it. I mean, welcome.
Tech. Let's talk about Traveller Tech. Actually, before we get to tech, let's talk about everybody's favorite career. What's your favorite career or your favorite type of character to play in Traveller? We'll start with cats.
Well, as you know, this is my first character for Traveller, and I did pick it for a very good reason. I like
cats.
Pirates. So I made him as piratey as possible without being a bit, too over the top. Hence the Wanderer. So, yeah,
Are we experiencing some technical difficulty here?
Are we? I hear cats.
I hear cats.
I hear cats.
Are you?
I hear cats as well.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So, I wanted to start him off as a bit of a drifter, a bit of a wanderer, a bit of an ex-pirate, and then work my way from there as I learned more about the game.
Dump out and come back. Oh no, my bad. Technical difficulty.
Frazzle,
I'm
what
good.
Have you done?
Nothing.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So
he's just learning how to use the.
I'm just using it to learn this technology called headsets, and they have these things called plugs. And apparently, the plugs can.
Oh, he's so cute.
The plugs can come out of these little sockety holy things. Yeah, and then you can't hear. Learning something new. Okay. Okay, so who was telling us about their favorite? Oh yes, cats. What was your career?
Yes, I was just explaining about my preferences in character creation, and that's why I made the Wanderer Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like piratey themes and characters. So I thought I'd start off with that as a base. Because I don't know much about Traveller, because I'm very new to it, as you know, and I was going to go from there. So, yeah.
All right. Well, why not? Drifter's a good career. That's our. That happens to be our theme over at Traveller RPG HQ this month. Last month. We're in a new month. This month is going to be. The secret career will be entertainers.
Oh, hello.
Yes. Okay. So, Dr. Gomos, tell us about what you. I mean, I guess you've only played one character, but tell us what you like about it.
Al-Jahar.
Well, I really enjoyed the creation process. It's a mechanic that I really hadn't expected. I poked around rule books from a whole bunch of other tabletop stuff, but I'd never brushed with Traveller before.
Uh-huh.
And the whole process you go through, building like characters and harmonizing the backstories with the people who you're going to be playing with, was a really interesting process. I started out with something fairly well set in my mind, but the way that rolling through your career worked pushed me in a different direction, and I was left with kind of fucked up but really interesting character to play.
Mm-hmm.
Cripple.
Who's both useful and useless in many contexts.
So tell us a little bit more about your character. What's special about him?
There's
Well,
quotations
on the plus
around
side
that.
of things, yeah, I know. Give me a break. On the plus side of things,
That's a
he's
loaded
a fairly
question.
well-accomplished doctor. High modifiers to science and computer skills have come in handy a lot. Just being in the future and stuff, having the ability to take a crack at getting into any kind of computer system out there has been useful.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side of things, I am essentially one notch above crippled. I have, my endurance is 6. It isn't bad, but my strength. Generally speaking, I am able to stand under my own weight. That's kind of how that works.
He has to stop for take a hit off his puffer often.
He does have an anti-grav suit.
Yeah, I do. I spent a lot of money on it. But I mean, it's the classic. My brain pays the bills. My body became secondary. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, a lot of fun. Really enjoying the character.
Yeah, you're doing good. You're the go-to guy for computer stuff on the implication. Hexen, tell us about your character. What do you like? What are your favorite things about your character, Inspector Briscoe?
Well, the first character I made was a military ex-Marine, and as I played him, I never felt a connection with him. And then I
Made bad decisions.
Yeah, I did not. I made interesting decisions, which we will get to later.
Sabotaged a chapter in the storyline.
So that character was ceremoniously retired in a blaze of glory, and then I made Chief Inspector Briscoe a police officer, and it was much easier as a player to connect to him, and I find him easy to play because I can I can't, he's just, for me, he's an interesting person to play, especially since he's I don't want to say uncorruptible police officer. I mean, he's a good cop. He wants to do the right thing, but he's also with a crew of people of highly dubious, questionable.
Hey now.
intention.
I'm standing right here.
I'm not denying anything. Not defending you.
So it's just a contrast of what
saying
my
a
character is versus what everybody else is.
It's a
doing.
good contrast. It's a good contrast. All right, yeah.
And then,
Go on.
but he also is starting to bend the law and think in ethical ways. So his character is evolving beyond what he was initially.
He has done some sketchy stuff, which we'll get to in a moment.
We're slowly corrupting
So,
him.
One thing is as Gomos has already said, the building of the character, and I think that was a problem I had with my first character. Is I should have remembered the cardinal rule of always have social skills when you make a character, because you always need social skills to some degree. And as a character, he didn't have many non-combat skills, so I felt he was limited
Agreed.
and crippled in that regard.
Hmm.
So I became dissatisfied with him as a character.
I see.
So
All right, cool. All right, how about you, Penroth? What's your favorite Traveller character, career style or career type?
Ooh. Well, I got a little bit of a Sophie's Choice going on right now.
Oh. Must pick
Um,
one. Your favorite. Or you can pick two if they're equally favorite. But don't pick like 5. That's too many favorites.
Okay. Like, I love the old school. I'm a Traveller 1 player, right? I play the classic Traveller mostly. So I love Barbarian, but then to go into any other class, like start Barbarian, I guarantee you, and then go to any other class. And why? Is because you get good stats.
Mm.
But my favorite really is Scientist. My personal favorite, if I just had to pick a single class, it would be Scientist. I just really enjoy playing the Scientist, right? Like the Spock character. Or the Scientist. I like playing the Scientist.
So you like figuring out, scanning things, figuring out what's going on, making recommendations.
Yes, yeah. Or figuring out when we see the ancient technology, right?
Uh-huh.
The Scientist is the one that can figure out what the thing really does, Also, if we get to a black hole, the Scientist might be the one that will help us escape the black hole. Or
Right.
a phantom planet or something like that, right?
Right.
For me, Scientist is kind of my favorite class. But, damn it, I like Barbarians, too.
We'll start as a Barbarian
I
and then
blame you.
switch to Scientist.
Yeah, Barbarian Scientist, there you go.
And all right. So, what about you, Ricard? What's been your favorite character class or career in Traveller?
Well, I always liked the idea of the scout class, where you had military disciplines and skills, but you were your own person, and it was more the intrepid. And I think everybody looks to Han Solo, things like that. So I have to say, just as an idea, that's always been my favorite. But usually it just depends. I want to always try something different, and with D&D it was easy because you could really steer your character with the alignments and things. And as far as the skills and things like that, I realized early on that you can have too many skills, and but you just pick a handful that you think are kind of interesting, and see how they develop. My current Traveller character, Conrad Drift, he went into space as a reporter, and he has no medic, no guns, and couldn't use a vac suit. And he was actually in space without a vac suit skill, and so that was pretty frightening. But he ended up learning that, and now that's all he wants to do is go play in space. So it's interesting how that stuff develops, and having something like the remote skill, and then realizing that you can utilize that as a offensive as well as defensive skill. I just enjoy watching the growth and starting with a concept, and then also thinking a certain way, like he's a curious person, but he's not in a hurry to get anything done. Or have Barbarians are good because I love that because you're attacked by a wizard and everybody's saying you're supposed to be all scared and everything, and you just go, And if that doesn't work, the wizard does what he does, but you never have the fear. So that's a completely different character. So it's always about trying to pick one that's newer and interesting.
Right. All right. Cool. And what about you, Russell and Monk? What kind of character, career, class do you like to play? Right now, you're doing an Admiral.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that certainly wasn't the plan. Getting up to that. I mean, perfectly frank, that character was not meant to get up to Admiral level with his origins, but that's how the dice rolled. And happy for it. I mean, I love role playing in all different sort of aspects. So like Ricard was saying, I'm a lot like him. Is playing something different, playing something challenging is always fun. I don't know if we're talking about favorite characters and things like this, but one of the best was a Vargr pirate, because I mean, come on, like that's just the stereotypical kind of thing, and I had a lot of fun with him, including him ending up having to cross-dress to escape a planet where they were on lockdown, like some serious shenanigans. Come on. Cross-dressing Corsair Vargr, come on, amazing. Yeah, see, Onyx is with me. So I mean that's just ridiculous amounts of fun you can get to. But at the same time, I mean, with this group, the Admiral ended up being what he was through partially through just the way his career went with the dice. And I think it's a lot of fun to carry this group from a space perspective. Oh, I can see things being thrown at me now.
Did you tell them your character?
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
Well, you weren't going to get out of it unless I slipped a little bit into character. But it's certainly been a lot of fun. It's added a lot of different dynamic to the way the group interplay has been, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, that's the point of gaming, right? Is to try different things and see where things go and have a good time doing it.
Right. Yeah, you guys have been doing great.
And that's something, has already been mentioned, is doing something different. And that's something the Traveller character system does well, is that you might have an idea, but your idea might change based off your rolls. You get really high, now you're an Admiral. You might roll something strange, and that will change your concept of what your character is. And that's an asset to the game compared against D&D, where I'm a warrior, and these are my skills. Know what the best in class is to take is, and by default, I can min-max. Well, you can't do that with travel. And that's something I really appreciate.
That's a good point.
At least it's harder to do it.
Yeah. But then that's where skill growth, buying skills, once you start playing, you start seeing where your character deficiencies are. And then, you might decide not to take a skill, but take a different skill. You start picking skills to better your character.
Or that fit your character. I mean, I'm not sure the gambling skill is going to continue to benefit my character, but the way that the role-playing went, that made the most sense to kind of improve that sort of thing. And I think that's right in line with it, is you let the story and you let your character and the way you're playing him lead you, and then you try to, within the game construct, help build that and lead that path.
Absolutely, Monk. I agree completely.
Well, at least someone agrees with me.
Let's
welcome aboard, Penrod.
I think an important thing is to pay attention to the world that the DM has put forth, and because he's trying to paint a picture of an environment, and when you see yourself in it, it works better. I've been in places with like low-level D&D player and just get into the ambiance of the DM's world, which is very important to them, and became an important part of it through no power play at all. I just simply said, I'm going to go and participate in this part of what you've described, regardless of what the extra adventure that you have to go kill things. And it becomes part of the lore, and you go, wow. So that is an appealing experience, to see that world and become part of that and add to the lore in that world that the DMs put a lot of thought into creating as a picture.
It's a good point.
You're so right, Ricard. You're so right. I wish I could hug you right now.
Personal space.
Yeah, well, because like DMs, like we work pretty hard, right? And like it's nice when a character or a player says, "Oh, I'm going to take this hook, right? Whatever hook our DMs make, and I'm going to run with it, right? I'm going to go and we're going to have fun with the story." So, how far does the gambling skill go? Well, as far as you want to take it, right?
I've got a recent story about gambling.
Right, yeah. Well, we've all been talking about our own characters. Now let's go around the table and talk about something something awesome somebody else at the table has done. So, Katz, do you have a story about something at your table that one of the other players or characters did that you thought was awesome?
Well, we all know what. Wrestling Mike, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah.
Recently had a gambling episode, didn't he? And won
Yeah,
quite a
got
bit of
lucky.
money, I might add.
You got lucky.
While he was completely drunk, and yeah.
So that's a
In
memorable
real life,
moment for
completely
a memorable moment of another person's
Well,
character.
I don't know how PG rated this is. You know what I mean?
Hey, we're adults here, so go for it.
Disparage my character publicly. It's okay.
Yes, well.
Me.
And what about you, Gomos? You have a favorite story of something one of the other characters did?
I kind of think that that might have to be background story. He essentially robbed obscene, almost limitless amounts of money from some crime lord and blew it all on a pleasure planet.
That's his character, yeah.
Spent the rest of his life running from pretty much everybody. Because of it.
He had the space hangover. Or whatever those hangover movies.
That was a doozy, that one was.
How about you, Hexen? What's your favorite story about another character?
There's a lot. So actually, I'm gonna pick on Katz here. I do like the sketchiness of his character, and as much of a part of the crew he is, we know very little about his character, where he came from, what his motivations are, and I just find that interesting because we don't. I mean, if you really think about it from an audience standpoint, you have no clue what this person is up to because we know so little about him.
I'm harmless, nothing to see here.
Good point. All right. How about you, Penroth? Do you have any stories about another character at your table or one of your players who did something cool?
Actually, yeah, I've got an old memory that I'm having just now with you involved, if I remember correctly.
No, you don't. Deny me.
Something that's supposed to stay quiet. Bring it on.
No,
I want to hear
I'll
this.
go here.
Go ahead. I don't know what it is. Go ahead.
No, it was an old Traveller game, and like Aliens had just come out. Like it was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
And so I had some monsters going on in the game, and you guys were such good role players. One of you turned over the spacesuit, like of a dead dude. You turned over the spacesuit, and I like role played how the alien like launched its tentacles towards the faceplate at you guys. And the way you guys role played, just screaming, yelling, and running away.
And that was real life.
It's probably mirroring real life.
Yeah.
No, it was beautiful because you guys really role played well. You acted like, like you weren't all like superheroes, you know what I mean? Like you acted like normal people going, "This is crazy weird."
Get the hell
I
out!
ain't no hero. I'm out of here.
Right.
Oh my God, they yelled and screamed and they had a great time and they like rolled dice and like everyone freaked out and it was great. Because I like to run Cthulhu too, so I always mix my horror
Like
with
Space Cthulhu.
Yeah, Penroth, we'll talk offline.
I'm in for Cthulhu.
All right, cool. How about you, Ricard? What's something cool that happened with another player at your gaming table?
Okay, too bad Coffin Dancer's not here, but his character had you see a lot of people focusing on different things and acquiring stuff, and you're going, okay, I don't care about that. That's fine. You know, I'm not going to make even an opinion about it. But he had gotten in his head to get a grav belt. And I'm going, okay, well, that's like hideously expensive. And I go, whatever, whatever that's going to be good for. And then one, like months later, we were adventuring, and we had this serious problem where we're hiding in this asteroid field, and we've got to approach a space station. And approaching it with the ship was out of the question. And so he says, I'll just fly there and disable the sensors. And so he was able to fly in space with the grav belt to the station and create a blind spot enough to where we could take over the grav sled or the grav craft and get into the station. And so that was like a superhero moment out of nowhere. So that's just amazing. You know,
Cool.
you get an item, and without any trying, it becomes the key point of that. And then on top of it, just to point out, those all 3 and 4 characters, I don't know if they realize it, but it's like evolved in such a way. It's Coffin Dancer's character also has advocate, and I don't know if anybody would ever think to take advocate on purpose. And
I've got it.
Okay. Well, he ends up being a lawyer, and we're all like have to have secret identities now, and therefore cash doesn't work the same. And so he's parlayed that into a shell corporation where we hide all our money and get paid through the corporation because he's done all this lawyering. And so it's just amazing. And then the one character who is like the lowest social has stumbled in, discovered that he is actually of the monarchy of this planet. Now he's lost that, but it's still. So you have a deposed royalty, super lawyer that flies through space, this guy that became an engineer and inherited these like AIs from what is that?
From Heart of Steel.
Yeah, Heart of Steel, and gets to tinker on the like highest tech stuff in the galaxy. And then, like I said, I had my, Kolchak like characters. I don't know, I'm really happy how he's going. He just keeps his finger on the pulse and he did things like turn up the gravity in the ship as a matter of course, like 1.1 per day, just so that when we came off the ship, we'd be ready to go. And it ended up over like a long period of time, resulting in all of us getting a +1 strength, which I didn't expect, but it was very helpful because some of us were at that -1.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
So anyway, that's the kind of thing. And so when everybody's just kind of doing their own thing but working together, and you pick it out and you're like applaud the there was a lot of golf clap things that went on, every week that were pretty interesting.
Right. And all right, great. And what about you, Monk? What's your favorite story about another character?
Oh,
The recent one with Gomez.
well, I don't know if I could say that one yet. We haven't talked about do we like critical failures or not.
Okay, let's talk about that. We're running short on time.
I'll lead.
Is there a couple of good ones?
I'll lead right into it.
Yeah, we can fudge it a little bit if we run over. But go ahead.
I'll lead it. I think one of the.
What do you think about criticals? Because it's a controversial thing. Some people like them, some people don't.
Well, I'll lead into it. I think the best thing with our group is that we all have our characters, we all play together, but sometimes we're not sure about the other, what's going on. Are they hiding something? Are they doing something? But we have a lot of fun and we laugh a lot. Like, sometimes almost too much. and I have to say my most favorite recent moment, and I know the reason they were all prompting me was because it's kind of everyone's favorite moment was Gomos, the crippled scientist, huffing to make a roll for observation, walking into his room and getting this, like, he had a 1, and that was because you can't go less than 1, because he actually was like, it was on 2d6.
Yeah.
It was just so bad, he ended up in an epileptic fit on the floor and completely missed everything. And then, of course, the jokes ensue about the fact that there was assassins pretty much standing right beside him, even though they weren't. But, and then he basically missed absolutely everything through it. And just we were in tears. And I think,
Yeah.
I think those kind of
Yeah,
moments.
I mean, consequently, my character now has no idea.
Yeah, you're like, you have no idea what happened.
It's because he notices like somebody's acting shady, so he runs to his room and he starts looking around and checking his own room, and then like researching on the computers and checking the security tapes and stuff. It's like...
so now he's totally clueless, and
Yeah.
It led to much more hilarity evening, but I think my best moments, my favorite moments, are those moments where something changes, or someone says something funny, or they do something. They do something brilliant, but at the same time, not that he did in this case, but brilliant, but at the same time, you're like, oh man, and then you ratchet it up, you get excited, you laugh, you get to just be in that moment, and that's the best part of why we play these games.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
And that's something,
So I'm all for critical failures. As long as they don't happen to me, they funny.
Okay, so now that we've gone around talking about how awesome other people are, let's talk about how bad we are. So, like, what's the worst thing your character has done, Cats?
Well, no, it's actually been
Showing up.
The list is so long.
Oi!
Hey! Okay, go
No,
on. Let him answer.
I think he's been behaving himself. I don't consider anything he's done to be air quotes bad.
Come on, getting beaten up by the teenagers 3 times.
Oh, they weren't teenagers. They were like 7 foot tall
Sorry.
thugs.
Street urchins that were like 2.
Mafia. They weren't kids. Oh my, don't know.
Yeah, that.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were kids.
So, what would you say the worst thing your character has done? Ripping off the mob, or
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't exactly rip them off. It was just
So remember when I said eating cats is invasive? You know very little about them.
This is
There
why.
we go.
it was an opportunity that was hard not to take up. You know what I mean?
when these guys first.
And I didn't directly steal the money. I kind of found it.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Any
there happened to be a
bank
pleasure planet over in the next system. and
more of a
Well, don't forget that when you first met Cats, he was in a survival pod, and you treated him like a prisoner, and you made him go first down into a dangerous place to trip
Oh
off
yeah,
all the
thanks for
traps.
that. Yeah,
Many times.
Yeah,
and
I was
still
the
his
bait.
it's still his role.
Yeah,
literally the bait. Yeah, they pushed me out in front of the group. Yeah, thanks for that.
yeah.
Still
And then they left him behind in the dark with no light. When
yeah,
they all ran away.
Just to
Yeah.
put things in
yeah, remember
context
that,
here,
guys?
Yeah.
It was an oversight.
He owes me so much money, functionally like my slave.
All right, Gomo. So, well, since you're speaking up, what's the worst thing
use
your
him.
character has done?
Enslaved cats.
Yeah, that.
No.
I mean, the damn slave.
No.
That's not the worst thing my character's done. It would probably
Wait,
be
let him
a
talk.
small girl.
Shh, wait, say that again.
Ooh, meerkats.
Yeah, Gomos. What's the worst thing your character's done?
Probably killing a small, kind of not really by accident kind of thing. Super crippled. And it's been like an oppressing presence in my character's life the entire time. He can't play soccer, can't, pick up the girls or do anything like the regular boys can. So he gets into a super brainy chemistry career in university, gets a doctorate and all this stuff. He starts focusing on trying to develop some kind of serum, temporary, permanent, whatever, some kind of biological solution that can help him get over his strength deficiencies. And
Cure
he
his
doesn't
rare
really
disease.
Yes, for my rare disease. So I don't really no one greenlights me on the testing. So I just kind of go ahead and do it myself quietly on the side. And while I was doing some testing on like my other patients for unassociated shit, one of the girls, a little girl who I was testing on, died, and yeah.
So that is the worst thing your character ever done. I'll have to agree.
Yeah.
But you're trying to.
And that's before he even got started.
Yeah, yeah, that's before you even started gaming. That's just your backstory. Thanks, life events.
Oh, we're talking about the game right now? Oh shit.
All right, Hexen, what's the worst thing your character's ever done?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Oh.
You can either or both characters.
So I have two with my first
Go with
character.
the last character, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so my very first character decided to get mad,
Spoilers,
and he kicks. So we had a very important person in our group that had a very good skill that would have been very beneficial to us, and out of frustration, my character kicks her straight into the bad guy, and said bad guy promptly kills her.
We needed that.
Yep.
Yeah. Goodbye, translator.
So that sort of I don't want to say derailing, but it did take it in a different direction and open up different opportunities for us. Do what?
It fast-tracked things.
It's fast-tracked. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the quote-unquote, the worst thing my current character did, the cop, he helped facilitate a gang war between two mobsters. And so a planet is now
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
gang war.
My memorable thing about Inspector Briscoe was the team found out that a tax collector had taken some money and from a villager, and that they had paid on his behalf, and he robbed the villager and was sporting some new armor. So they arranged for him to meet somebody in a tavern, in an inn, and then they drugged him and threw him out the window and dragged him to the edge of the river, and then Briscoe had a smoke around the corner while the other guys drowned the tax collector, and then floated his body down the river. Yeah.
Other guy being me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think we've already answered my question.
Yeah.
I'm a good cop. I can't witness this. I go smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Penroth, you have a story about a low point in one of your characters' histories?
Ooh. Well, it's been so long since I've played Traveller that I don't really have a story about being a player, but if you'll allow me, I have a DM's evil.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mixed genres for my players recently in Traveller. So I mixed together, the Reavers from Firefly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mixed those up with a group of monsters called the Sathar from a role-playing game called Star Frontiers. I don't know, Frank, if you remember what that game is.
TSR?
Yeah, TSR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're these worm-like guys, and they made they make cyber monsters and stuff. Well, I mixed them up with the Reavers, and I made them like a single race in Traveller. And they came up among
That sounds awesome.
worlds. Huh?
It sounds awesome.
Oh, well, yeah, they came up on different worlds like locusts, right? So they would sleep for 1,000 years or whatever, and then they would just show up. And then they have hypnosis, and I tripled their hypnosis on my players. So they not only had optical hypnosis, like they could use the flashing lights and hypnotize you, but they were also hypnotic with pheromones.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added sonic hypnotism. Like if you were to turn on the audio and you would hear a radio thing, your communication officer would suddenly not know what's going on, and they would take your ship over, and then there were Reavers after that. So they would turn you into their cyber monsters.
I will file this in my Index for later.
No, you will not.
No, please.
Penroth, stop talking.
That's
I'm
enough
sorry.
ideas.
It's only me and Frank. Are we the only two DMs here? Is that?
And I've been a DM.
Ricard's a good DM.
I've
cool.
DM'd, but it's been so long since I've done anything.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, that's fun.
All right, cool.
That's fun.
All right, how about you,
That's
Ricard?
my story. That's my evil.
That's a good
what
story. That's a good story. All right, Ricard. You guys were short on time, but so
yeah, I'll make it short.
You don't have to make it totally short.
No, that's fine.
Some of these interviews are 10 minutes short of half an hour and stuff like that. So we have a little fudging time. But I'm just letting you know we're getting close to getting to the interviews. But go ahead, Ricard. Worst thing your character's done.
Well, it's kind of hard to say he's done anything bad, but what I'd say is that he's originally, I'm kind of thinking, intrepid, good-hearted, and then he very much evolved into whatever gets the job done, like facilitated the capturing of scientists just so we could follow the lead and maybe be able to rescue them later. Things like that. That's pretty bad. And just, of course, not staying true to like your employer, but that's beside the point. And just a couple of things where you're going, yeah, this is kind of sketchy. I can't think of another one right now, but it's kind of weird because it kind of goes in, you kind of test the waters, and then now I'm kind of going back towards going, I think I'll need to watch that a little more. But it's kind of one of those things where I don't really judge my character, and I don't judge the other characters, but I haven't had an opportunity to murder anybody or do anything weird. So that's I just hope that doesn't come up.
Good to have you joining the remote crew because you'll get plenty of chance.
Step it up, brother. Step it up.
Yeah, step it up.
All right, cool. Thanks, Ricard. How about you, Monk? What's the low point of your character's career?
Well, I don't know if it's the low point was when I ran out of cigars and whiskey, but luckily I made that money back when I won that gambling. But I think we did cover it. I mean, in terms of dark points was, ultimately taking revenge on that tax collector who was, let's face it, he got what was coming to him with what he did to that family. My character doesn't have any remorse about it whatsoever, but it was pretty dark, Getting one of the tavern wenches to drug him and then
distract him,
seduce him up to the room,
distract in my room, and then
poison his wine,
throwing him out the window, and then me taking him for a little stroll down by the river
and drowning him.
Yeah, going back to grab belts. Yeah, he fell in. Yeah, going back to grab belts. That's how I got him over the wall, right? And yeah, good thing Briscoe was there to not look that way.
All right. Cool.
It's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, it's a dark thing for your character, but with what this guy had done to these other families and had done to people and stuff like that, it's kind of that harsh frontier justice.
Mm-hmm. Dark on dark action.
That's
Did it help find your character's
moral compass, or
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for those stories. Now let's we're going to transition on to the get on with the interviews, but I'm going to invite the panel to hang out and mute themselves while we listen to the interview. And when the interview is over, we might have some time in between interviews where we can come back on and talk Traveller a little bit more. We'll go with what the audience here wants because we're on a flexible schedule. And these other interviews are I previously recorded, so I'll just be playing them back. So we can be casual and playful and have some fun here. And so panel, if you guys want to hang out, we can talk about the interviews maybe afterwards, or if we have time, we'll see. I kind of burned into the flex time that I had for this first interview because I was having such a good time with your answers. So, all right, guys, let's set ourselves for mute, and then I will put the first interview on. That would be Mr. Omer Joel of Stella Gamma Publishing. You'll see he's online there in the sidebar, but he's on the other side of the world in Israel, so he might be at work or not able to be actually in here with us. But at least he's in Discord.
I'd say asleep.
Asleep? Yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
He's my time plus 9. So yeah. All right, guys. I'm gonna switch over to the first interview here, and I think it's about a 20-minute interview. And then we'll continue from there. Thanks, panel, and we'll come back after this interview.